Put that. You want to put it?
Alrighty.
You able to hear? You're able to hear?
Okay, so guys, here's how it's going to work. I want you to mute your side, or probably I'm not going to mute every single person who logs in. So, but if you want to speak, just raise your hands. There's a raise your hand button somewhere there, so you can just press on that, and then I can let you speak. But considering it's a half-an-hour class and there's going to be a lot of participants, so the way it's going to work is I'm going to take you through today's topic. So you're just going to be listening, mute your side, and if you want to speak, then kind of unmute it and then speak, right? So we're going to cover the topic very quickly, maybe 5-10 minutes, and then I'll open it up for Q&As. Then you can ask your questions, right? And if there's no questions, then we move on to the next section. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I hope everybody can see the screen. If you have a problem seeing that, you can just send me a chat message. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with the presentation. So what we're going to be doing today is called the Saavedra study. Okay, it's an endgame study named after, I think, a priest called Mr. Father Saavedra, who basically identified this position, which for a long time existed, but we all thought that it was a drawish position, right? But it was actually a win. All right, so let's get into this. But before that, the reason why we are doing this class is when you think of an endgame puzzle, we want to ask this question: is there a method to the madness? In other words, there's so many puzzles that you keep kind of doing all the time. Let me quickly mute. All right, so we keep doing so many puzzles related to endgame all the time. And the question is there a method to the madness? Or do we each time take up a separate puzzle and think about how to do it for the very first time? So that's essentially our goal. If we figure out the method, then it can help us solve every single endgame puzzle. However, it's not easy. It's not a method which you just, apply and get done with it. It's rather hard one. Even if there's a method, and there is one, I'm going to teach you that, you still need to put in a lot of effort to actually be able to apply that, right? So why do we want to do this? What is the reason for it? This particular session is there because you want to improve your chess, right? That's why we are here. Whatever is your rating, you want to get better. Whatever is your level of play, you want to get better, right? If you have that dedication and desire, that's the first step towards getting better. If that's missing, then the driving force is missing, right? But I hope every one of you who's logged in here on a Friday evening believes in this. Also, we feel awesome when we get it right. And that's even better when you actually do a endgame study. It's not easy, right? Because it's hard. It's like a lot of possibilities. It's like so many ways in which it can go right and wrong. And you have to think about all the possibilities to be able to get it correct. But when we do it, the feeling is amazing. We get it right. That's fantastic. Again, I keep telling this to all my students. Remember that remembering is easy. Applying is hard. Okay? If I tell you this is what the answer is, remembering it, mugging it up, much, much easier. Applying it so that you can do it for another puzzle, that's a skill, right? That's what makes you smarter. That's why applying is always hard. And in ZugZwang, you're always about learning the skill, right? That's what matters. So let's go on. And this is my personal mantra: always do the hard stuff first. Right? Given an option between the easy and the hard stuff, do the hard stuff first. Makes life very, very easy. It's very counterintuitive. Even when you're studying for your academics and you're doing school and you have to do math and biology and you hate biology and you love math and you just want to do math, bad strategy. Do the hard stuff first. Go do biology first. Math is always easy. Right? The same way, even in chess, application is hard. Learn application first. Then you can learn everything, the name of the openings and the variations, because that's so easy to remember. But application is always hard. Okay? All right. So before we go to the Saavedra study, I just want to tell you something. All endgames follow what is called the theory of constraints. There is something called the theory of constraints, which I have developed. And if you understand the theory of constraints, then every single endgame is a cakewalk. So what is this theory of constraints? So what is a constraint in the first place? A constraint is nothing but a limitation, right? Something that stops you from doing something. For example, if I give you a puzzle and ask you to solve, there is no constraint to it. But if I give you another condition saying you have to solve it in the next 60 seconds, that becomes a constraint. You want to sit and play a game, no constraint. Keep a clock there, that is a constraint. So constraint is nothing but a limitation. It's basically the boundary that says that you have to work within this boundary, right? It basically creates the rule for you. And every endgame position and puzzle has these constraints. It's all about identifying this, right? So there are 4 parts to solving any endgame. First, identify the purpose of every piece. Then identify the constraint. Then identify what is the threat that you can give. And then finally, how good a threat it is depends on whether your opponent falls into ZugZwang, right? That's the most important thing. So let's understand how it works. So once you understand what a constraint is, right? Let me just annotate this. Okay. Once you understand what a constraint is, then you can identify the best move possible, which is a threat or a bait. And once you're able to make a perfect threat, your opponent is kind of forced to do something. And that's exactly what ZugZwang is, right? And once he is forced, after that, when you go back to the board, either his constraints would have increased or your constraints would have decreased. As in, when the constraints go down, you have more freedom, right? For example, let me ask you a question. You're playing a 5-minute game and a 1-minute game. Which has more freedom? Of course, the 5-minute game, right? Because the constraint in the 1-minute game is even higher. You don't have so much freedom to relax and think and make your calculation and think what is right. You've got to react instantaneously. You don't have the freedom. The constraint is higher. But in a 5-minute game, much lesser, correct? Now, which has higher constraint, a 5-minute game or a 30-minute game? Of course, the 5-minute game, because 30-minute gives you a lot of time. You can actually take a bathroom break, you can go out, you can probably watch a quick movie and then come back. That's how much time you have. So the point being, constraint is something which is measurable. It can go up and it can go down. So our goal when we solve a puzzle is to ensure that the moves are such that your constraint always goes down. You have more freedom. And or make your opponent's constraints go up. Okay, this is what we want to do. So let's move on. This is the Saavedra position. Okay, this is an endgame study, and this is a position where white has just moved his pawn to c7. So first, let's ask a question. We have a 4-step process. The first step is purpose. Okay, so for us to go ahead and answer this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute somebody here and they will actually answer the questions that I have to ask. Okay, so I'm going to start with Srishant. So Shrishant, what is the purpose of this pawn?
To promote.
To promote, right? And if he promotes, what happens to him? Will white win, lose, or will it be a draw? So I think he's... So in case the pawn promotes, then the game is over then and there, right? Because white gets a queen, black still has a rook, which means the game is done. So the purpose of white is to move. And what's the purpose of the black pieces here? To stop it. In other words, the purpose will clash with each other. White's purpose goes against black's purpose. That's the reason there is a tug of war. That's the reason it's a game. Correct? So black wants to do anything and everything possible to stop it. So Shrishant, how can black stop this pawn from promoting?
It can't stop it.
You think it can't stop it? Which means the game is over then. Anybody have an idea?
RD6.
Who said that?
Dhruva.
Dhruva.
Yeah.
Why RD6? That's not stopping the pawn from becoming a queen.
No, because it's a check.
Okay. So my question is very, very specific. I want the pawn to stop from becoming a queen. Can it be done?
No.
It can't be done, right? I can't, because the only two ways in which I can do this is I go behind the pawn or I stop where it's going to come to. And both of these are disasters, because if I move rook to c5, king is going to kill it. And if I move rook to d8, pawn is going to kill it. So I'm actually in a catch-22. I don't know what to do. I can't stop this from becoming a queen, which means in a way I've lost the game. However, as a last attempt, I'm going to try something, which is I'm going to try and find what is called the in-between move, right? Something which just delays it. Something which says, hey, I can't stop the pawn right now, but maybe if I give an in-between move, in other words, if I can create a threat, then I might be able to do it the next time. And that's why, Dhruva, you're correct. The correct move is to give a check here, because there's no other option. Any other thing, the pawn promotes immediately. So you move the king, for example, game over. You move the rook somewhere else, game over. You try to bring the rook back, game over. Whatever you do, the pawn is going to promote. The only one that's going to stop it is rook d6. So in a way, black is kind of forced to do this, right? So so this is our situation. Now what we're going to do is, let's take it on a board and see what happens. So this is our move, and we are forced to give a check. Now, what do you think white should do? Saurabh?
Queen b7.
King b7. Okay, so you feel that the king should go up. All right, so I'm going to take one by one. Okay, so Saurabh, I'm going to address the situation. Now, what do you think black's hope of winning is? Very high, very less? In this particular situation, do you think black can win the game?
Yes.
It's highly unlikely, because I mean, it's very hard for him to prevent this pawn from becoming a queen, right? Because his king is so far away. Even if he comes and blocks it, the king will come and kick him out. And then he's just going to promote the pawn. Which means the best result that black can hope for is a draw.
Draw.
Correct? He gets a draw, he's happy, because he knows he's losing. So if he can find a draw, he is super happy. But white will be super sad, because it's a game that he can actually win. Right? But queen b7 is going to defeat the purpose of winning. You know why? Because the moment you move king b7, he has, 1 minute, he has a wonderful move, which is this. So while you can't really stop the pawn from becoming a queen, you could stop it from promoting because of a pin. He can't move it now. Now he needs to get away from the pin, and black is going to say thank you so much and just kill it and accept a draw and be very, very happy. Hence, Dhruva's move of saying, hey, let me give a check actually worked, because white didn't think hard enough to say that I'll go there. You know why? Let's apply the theory of constraint. The moment you move up, you are constraining yourself because of this pattern. Because you are putting yourself under pin. Right? So king b7 is wrong. Anybody else have a different answer?
KC5.
KC5. Okay, now this is also, while it looks totally fine, it looks as though black is lost here, right? He can't do anything. Because, I mean, his rook is under attack. If he gives a check, the king is going to kill it. But there's something under his sleeve. You know, that's the beauty of this position. Just when it looks like black is losing, he has an amazing move to just move back. You know why? Because now if you promote, he'll say thank you so much and win the game from here. So white, instead of, I mean, black was hoping for a draw, but thank you so much for KC5, all of a sudden you're going to lose the game. Now imagine you just figured it out. You saw like, oh my God, I can't promote because it's a skewer. So you move the king back. Still you have lost the game, because now the rook will just go behind the pawn and then kill it and be happy with the draw. In other words, Dhruva, the moment you move KC5, it's gone. You've just lost the plot. Right? Now there's something common that I'm seeing between how you're answering the question. You tend to do it fast. That's something that you have to curb, right? See, there are two ways of playing chess. The first one is what I call intuitive chess, right? Which is you just look at a position and it feels right. KC5 feels right. Rook c6 feels right. The other way of playing chess is where you calculate, like the way we are doing right now, where we are saying that, hey, the king is under check. He can go to only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 possible squares, out of which 2 of them are bad. Which means he needs to move to one of these other 3. This is calculation in chess. And if you want to get really good at chess and develop your logical reasoning and thinking skills, critical thinking skills, then you shouldn't be just an intuitive player. You should become a calculating player. Which means the first step towards becoming a calculating player is to develop patience. Don't be in a hurry. If you have to always decide that you have a choice in life, on one side, you can do things fast, speed. The other side, accuracy. If you want to play chess, devote yourself towards accuracy, not towards speed. Right? There are a lot of games for speed. Subway Surfer, example. That you can do. Hours together you can play. It's all about speed. Because you finish a game, you start another one. But chess, you don't get it. Chess is like life. It's like crossing the road. You cannot run in a crowded road, get hit by a lorry, and then start thinking, oops, made a mistake. Right? Because you're going to be spending the next 6 months in the hospital. You would want to run the simulation in your head beforehand. Which means, in our case, one of these 3 is the correct answer. So what do you think about this?
I think it's A7, yeah.
A7 just has the same problem as B7, Harish. The moment you go there, black is going to be super happy. Right? because now you can't move. You move it here, I kill, I get a draw. So a7 also is wrong. What about a5? a5 is actually a blunder, because now not only are you losing track of the pawn, you can't even kill the rook in return. So now let's kind of look at all the possibilities. Rook d6 check, perfect. I have 5 possible answers, out of which this is a skewer, which means I lose the game. a5, I lose the game. Here it's a draw, but still not worth it. Here it's a draw, not worth it. So the only possible answer, which is a ZugZwang here, is to move here. That's the meaning of ZugZwang. You're forced to do one thing. So if you still want to be in the game, this is the only possible way. It still gives you a little bit of hope. But black still has the same problem. He can't come behind. He can't go there. Right? He's just going to lose on both fronts. So what's he supposed to do? None of this works, right? So he is supposed to do only one thing, which is to give another check. Now again, white has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If he goes here, it's a skewer, because rook comes here, and kills the pawn. If he comes here, it's a skewer. If he goes here, it's a blunder. If he goes here, super blunder. So he can either go back or he can go up. What's the problem with going to b6? What's wrong with this?
Same check. He will draw.
He'll give the same check.
Absolutely. That's perpetual checks, right? Like it's going to go on. And he'll be forced to come back again. So knowing this, white says, fine, I'll come forward. Black says, okay, I'll give you another check. White says, fine, I'll give you another check. I mean, I'll just escape the same way because I can't go back. If I go back, it's again perpetual checks. I give you another check. Now comes the clincher. So far, coming to the C file was prohibited because there was always a risk of a skewer. Like here, if he had come, again, same problem. I can't promote right now because I have this. I can't do it. However, when I do this, and when I come here, I don't have the skewer any longer. Which means white, by being very patient and being very calculative, has figured out a way where he can beat black's idea. Now black is cornered. His constraints are too many. He can't give a check. He can't skewer. He can't block it. He can't move the rook to d8. He can't move the rook to c3. Nothing is possible. All of them are cut out. No more checks. Come here or here, you're gone. Come here to go and attack the pawn, you're dead. Go all the way to d8, you're dead. In other words, you have run out of all options. So white patiently did something. What did he do? He just followed. He calculated. He didn't do the gut feel chess. He didn't do the intuitive chess. He didn't move something randomly and move on to the next step. What did he do? He took it step by step by step. And he came to a situation where now black is completely constrained. Does this mean black has lost the game? Or does he still have one trick remaining? I'll give you a minute. You guys can think about it. Ishita, what do you think? Does this mean black has lost the game? Or does he still have one small trick hiding somewhere? So let me tell you a story. When I was very young, I think 10 or 11 years old, I played with a guy called R.R. Lakshman. Today he's a grandmaster. Okay, so in that game I was winning because I was promoting the pawn. But I did not see that he was trying to trap me for a stalemate. Right? And what I did is is something that 99% of everybody will do, which is when you see a pawn that's about to promote, you will blindly promote it. You won't even care what black does here, right? Would you agree with me? But black has an amazing move where he says, okay, you're going to promote the next one, and then I'm going to sacrifice my rook, where you are forced to kill it, right? The purpose of this pawn is to promote. So he promotes, becomes a queen. And then what do? I apply a constraint. I create a threat. I give you a check in such a way that you're forced to kill it. And once you're forced to kill my rook, I get myself in a stalemate, which means let's understand the stalemate first. This king is in the corner. He can't come here or here because of the white king. No king's land. But he can come here. Now imagine if the rook is dead and the queen is controlling the square. Isn't that a stalemate? And for the queen to control it without a check, he needs to be somewhere on this diagonal, which means he either needs to go here or he needs to go here. So one strategy here could be like, I'll move the rook here. He makes it a queen. I bring the rook and say, please kill me, and make it a stalemate. However, the problem is it's not a ZugZwang move, right? When I sacrifice my rook here, he'll say, thank you so much. Get lost. I'm not going to kill your rook. I would rather go and do a checkmate here. Why should I worry about going and killing the rook? So that's why this strategy of going here and here is not going to work. However, we observed already the queen needs to be on this diagonal.
Rook d4.
And for him to be there, rook d4 works. So now you promote to queen. Forced move, ZugZwang. Right? Either you kill it and make it a stalemate, or you move the king and lose your queen and lose the game. No other option but forced to kill it, stalemate, thank you so much. Does this mean the game is over again?
You can promote to a rook.
Absolutely. You under promoted to a rook. And no longer is this possible because now if I try the same thing, rook takes rook, king is forced to move here, checkmate. Okay. However, what is black's forced move right now? I mean, rook is still a draw, right? What's the big deal?
Rook a4.
Why should he move rook a4?
Or else rook a8 is a checkmate.
Absolutely. Again, the same constraint, the same threat. I have a checkmate here and you got to prevent it. So you do this. Now what does white do?
kb3.
Absolutely. kb3 with a dual threat. One is I'm threatening to kill this rook. The other threat is I'm threatening checkmate. In other words, it's like a fork of threats, right? So I'm doing both of them at the same time. So either you save your rook, in which case it's a checkmate, game over, or you save your king by moving this, in which case I take your rook and eventually I'll checkmate you with a single rook. So this is the beauty of the Saavedra position. So let's go back and see what happens all the way from the beginning. So pawn moves, about to make a queen. Rook gives a check, keeps giving checks. Any other possibility doesn't work. And then you keep giving checks, right? So if I were to show this, this is how it works. So this is your Saavedra position. Okay. So what is the takeaway here? What is the parting thoughts? Every endgame position is like this. It's all about thinking about the logic behind it, right? What is the forced move? What needs to be done? And if you can think through this, if you can reason your way through this, then you are an amazing chess player. But if you shoot from the gut and you are like in a hurry to make your next move, that's a bad way of playing chess, and that's just going to make you a club player, in the sense you'll reach 1,200 and say like, okay, thank you so much, that's pretty much it. You can't go beyond that. But if you really want to be a good chess player, you got to learn to do more endgame puzzles. Endgame studies is one of the best ways of learning your calculation, because what you do here, you're going to be applying that in your middle game as well. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the session today. We're going to do it every Friday, 9 o'clock. Be sharp, be there. And every week, we're going to be looking at a different topic. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, come and ask me in the class. I hope to see you in class tomorrow or day after. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.